Hello, everyone. Welcome. I'm Lisa Martin with Silver Spring Town Center, and we're so pleased to have a special artist from our community featured today, creating with a vision in the studio with artist Martina Sestakova.
Yay.
So glad to have you, Martina.
Thank you for having me.
Great. So before we get started, I just wanted to tell you about a few events we have coming up. It's almost February. Can you believe it? In February, we celebrate Black History Month, and we have an array of programs that do just that, including our next Sparkle on Wednesday, February 9th. It's a discussion about the Montgomery County Civil Rights Tour with Silver Spring Civic Building manager Eric Rash, my colleague who took the tour in 2018. And then on Tuesday, February 15th, we have Littonsville, a treasured community in Silver Spring, an oral history discussion hosted by SSTCI board member and Littonsville longtime resident Pat Tyson. And she will be joined with some longtime community members as well. We have our third in a trio of comedy shows called Most Loved Comics, happening right after Valentine's Day on Wednesday, February 16th at 8 o'clock. And on Monday, the 21st of February, we have Honoring African American Luminaries Through Painting with Fabric in the studio with artist Mihira Kara. Mihira does wonderful work with fabric. It's just stunning what she does. And she's done paintings of Obama, Michelle Obama, Maya Angelou, and an array of other luminaries from the African American community, leaders, artists, politicians. Kaepernick is another one, sports heroes. On Wednesday, February 23rd, we have Chained to History, Slavery and U.S. Foreign Relations to 1865 with GW history professor Stephen Brady. And on Thursday, February 24th, puppeteer Schroeder Cherry and Friends, sculpting, design, and character development in the creation of puppets inspired by the African diaspora. And then we have something that was originally scheduled for earlier in the month, but now happening on Friday, February 25th, a poetry gathering in celebration of Black History Month with poet and SSTCI board president Brenda Bunting, who will be joined by other poets as well. All of our events are made possible with generous support from Montgomery County, United Therapeutics, the Arts and Humanities of Montgomery County, Maryland State Arts, Montgomery College, and many others. And now for the program, and as I mentioned, as you were coming in, we are recording this, Creating with a Vision in the studio with Martina Sestakova. Martina Sestakova is a native of the Czech Republic and the owner of RADOST, established in 2016. The name of her company means joy in Czech. And Martina holds a BFA in communications from the University of Maryland and an MFA in fashion design from the Academy of Arts University of California, right? California?
Yeah.
Okay, great. I'm in California right now, actually, coming to you.
Little jealous. We had some snow today.
Right, it was 75 today, and it's still fairly warm.
Oh, lovely.
But we're coming back tomorrow by train. So Martina engages in 3 areas of creative exploration: textile design, painting, and art education. As a textile designer, Martina invokes short stories from life experiences, which then inspire her paintings turned into textiles. She gives specific names to the fabrics as they are visual manifestations of actual moments. Her scarves have been featured on Voice of America, at the Smithsonian American Art Museum, the American Horticultural Society, the National Czech and Slovak Museum and Library, and an array of shops across the United States. Martina's design practice intertwines with her acrylic watercolor paintings on Yupo and she'll tell us more about Yupo.
Yes,
In the series Visual Insights into Life's Beauty, she communicates words and their associated emotions through colors, shapes, and textures. Her artworks have been exhibited at venues such as Black Rock Center for the Arts, Ada Rose Gallery in Maryland, Artworks Gallery in Virginia, La Tella Curatorial in DC, and Emerge Gallery, New York. Martina has co-curated 3 exhibitions at the Ada Rose Gallery. She is a board member of Montgomery Art Association and a member of Capitol Hill Art League and Washington Watercolor Association. Martina's design practice intertwines with her acrylic. Oh, sorry, I just read that part. As an art educator, Martina connects with her students through exploratory workshops. Her healthcare background allows her to share her elder care expertise in art classes in independent and assisted living communities. Martina brings creative projects to communities with limited access to the arts, such as individuals in correctional institutions and non-English speaking communities. She offers online sessions through her small business. Martina Sestakova resides in Kensington, Maryland.
Yay!
Welcome, Martina. So glad to have you. And I should mention you were on our, I believe, our first panel of women in the arts.
That's right.
A few years ago.
Yeah.
So
that was a fun experience.
Yes,
Great.
So glad to have you. And I understand you're going to welcome questions and comments along the way.
Yes.
Participants are.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, great. We'll take it away, Martina.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Lisa. I think we ran into each other somewhere like near Friendship Heights or something, and you said, "Oh, are you free in January?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm free."
Right.
This came together pretty organically, so thank you so much for having me. And before I start, do I see Molly painting? Are you working? You're muted, but that's okay. I just thought it's so wonderful that you joined and you're actually creating.
She let me unmute. I am making a tiny model of a restaurant in Adams, Oregon. So yeah,
that's so great. Well, I'm glad you joined a discussion about creativity and you are creating at the same time. So.
Molly's an avid tiny house builder.
Wonderful. Very cool.
We just finished our workshop with Marcy.
With Marcy, great.
Yeah. So yeah.
Nice. So, great. So, well, thank you everyone for joining. This is really lovely. It's actually kind of cold and snowy outside. So what a nice way to spend the Friday evening. Thank you, Lisa, for the invitation and the introduction. So I really appreciate being here. So I guess what I thought I would do today is, I guess, cover the 3 areas that Lisa did talk about, which is my textile work, the abstract art that I focus on, and then the art education that I kind of engage in. So maybe I'll tell you about each field a little bit. I would welcome questions along the way. I don't want you to spend the evening just, listening to a lecture. So if you have any question, feel free to unmute yourself and just pop in. I do find it a little hard to manage the chat. So if you have a question, please, I would prefer that you just talk. You do not need to have your video on, that's fine. But feel free to kind of pop in if you have a question. I want to make sure I kind of address the ideas as they come up. So yes, I live in Kensington, Maryland right now, but I was born in Prague in the Czech Republic. So I'm a very proud Czech citizen. I think the country is lovely and I hope you get to go. It has played a role in my creativity in several ways. I grew up with a grandmother who was a wonderful cook and a gardener. So I actually didn't really paint or create until my early 30s, but I did spend my childhood cooking and gardening and learning about things. And I feel like I have always been exposed to pretty creative people. I don't think my grandmother or my family really ever set foot in an art gallery or a museum, but apparently that hasn't really stopped me from, engaging in a new field. So my childhood is definitely one of good memories and experiences. I moved to the United States 20 years ago, so I have lived in the DMV area the whole time, and I feel like definitely not a direct trajectory towards art and towards what I do right now. I came over to the US as an au pair. So I lived with two different families and I took care of their children. And the experience was really lovely. I'm friends with all of the parents. We spend time together and, the kids are growing up. Of course, I'm not aging at all. So it's just them. But we are in touch and, they were always really supportive of my education. So I ended up going to Montgomery College for my associate's degree. Then I went to University of Maryland in College Park for my bachelor's, and I studied intracultural communication and women's studies. So nothing, per se, that would tie to painting or creating or doing what I do right now. And then I took a little break. I went to work. And I worked in clinical trials for 10 years. So Lisa did mention my healthcare background. So that's definitely from my years in clinical trials. I worked for a company in Rockville, Maryland, and I was there for a good 9 or 10 years. It was a really interesting field, but I guess it's taking me to the moment when I decided that I'm going to start this new career. And it was because I never liked winters. So I'm from the Czech Republic. The winters are really long, they're really dark, and they're really cold. I never liked them. And over winter, I would just get kind of like, I don't know what to do with myself. So I decided one winter that I'm going to go back to graduate school. And I didn't know what I wanted to study. So I'm sitting actually at work and I'm like Googling graduate school and fields of study and blah, blah. I'm kind of like, I don't know. And I started thinking about architecture. So I'm, thinking of architecture, gardening, something with, creating something visual where you could see it. And then I stumbled across this description of fashion design. And someone said online, oh, it takes 5-7 years. You have to study, you have to build a house and all of these permits and all of this technical knowledge. And then they said, and it takes 2 hours to make a dress. So I'm like, oh, I'm just going to study fashion design. That's literally like the research I have done. So here I am. I did go back to graduate school and I have a master's degree in fashion design. While the research was very short, the learning curve was really steep. I think I cried the whole first semester. I didn't know anything about anything. I was the only student in the master's program who did not have a degree in fashion design as a bachelor's degree. So you can imagine that I spent a lot of time on YouTube watching, how to draw a leg and how to draw a fashion model and what does a sleeve look like. So the learning curve was really, really steep. But it was a good experience and it has changed my life because in the last 2 years, I ended up taking textile design. And it was one of those classes where you walk in and you're kind of like, why did no one ever tell me about this before? This is what I wanted to do all along. So I took these textile classes and they were thoughtful and interesting and investigative. And I feel like I learned about history and the world and the industry. And I also learned, painting. We had to create these textile designs. So kind of the trajectory is here I show up in the US, I'm an au pair, I'm taking care of someone's children, great experience. I end up working in clinical trials, another wonderful experience. But here are these winters, I don't really know what to do with myself. So I end up in this master's program. And I really was thinking like, I need to do something with this. So I actually ended up quitting my office job and starting my little company in 2016. And Lisa did mention earlier that the name of my company is the Czech word for joy. So I was brainstorming how to name my company, and my favorite English word is joy. But when you Google that, it's literally everything is joy, and it's registered and trademarked in all kinds of shapes and forms. So I thought, I'm just gonna go back to my Czech roots, and I'm gonna go with the Czech word for joy, which is RADOST. So that's what I'm doing. And it actually ended up being, aside from it being my favorite word, it really ended up being a really meaningful business model for me, because everything I do, I do it by myself, and the fact that I am creating with this idea of joy is really important. I find that even if I'm doing accounting, I can kind of find ways in which I really appreciate all of the little aspects of running a business. So I hope this is kind of like a little background of why I am where I am here, why I am here doing this. So again, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to unmute and pop in. And I guess what I'm gonna spend a few minutes now on is telling you kind of about the three fields that I focus on. I will start with the textile design. It is what I kind of learned to love in school. So I took all of these wonderful textile design classes, and the way I learned textile design was very industry driven. Take a look at the color story, take a look at the seasons, and maybe design a few more black and gray designs for the winter, or kind of bring in some pastels in the spring. So it's kind of it seems to be very structured, and I don't really care for that. It's not really exciting for me. So if you do know me, or if you follow my work, or if you are just learning about it, I get really excited about capturing life experiences in a visual way. I grew up with a grandfather who told really great stories, and who never said no when I wanted him to read a book out loud. So I have this, I feel like, really strong love of words and stories. And I think stories are really crucial to the quality of our lives. So I perceive the textile work as a storytelling. And Lisa did mention in the intro that every textile that I create has a title or a name, and it does come with a short story. So a customer recently asked me, so you design it and then you write that story, right? And I said, no, I do it the other way. So something happens to me in my life, and I have a sense that it needs to be kind of processed, or it needs to be addressed, or there's like a visual interest to it, and then I pursue it. So every scarf or every textile that you may have seen is something that has happened to me, or it happened to someone else in my life, and I view that experience as an opportunity to tell a visual story. So I'll give you a few examples just so it doesn't sound that lofty, or not straightforward. Let me hopefully I'll show you some of the textiles closer to the screen, so I hope I'm doing it correctly. Let me actually change my view so that I know where I'm showing everything. Perfect. So I'll do my best with the technical aspects of us being together on Zoom, but if you have any tips or tricks, please feel free to share. So let me tell you a few of the stories behind the scarves, and I hope kind of the process will become clear as I'm talking. So right now, you're looking at a textile design that I have created that is called In Bloom. And it's actually inspired by my grandmother's garden. So I was in my grandmother's garden several years ago. She was a wonderful, wonderful gardener. And I would take photos of the flowers and I would go back and just kind of think about them. So this is an interpretation in watercolors and in pencils, just the painting that I have done inspired by her garden. It is called In Bloom. And I guess the story that it captures is this importance of a place, of flowers, of gardens and nature. So the story that I mentioned is actually printed on a little card with every scarf. So this one started as me being in my grandmother's garden. I always have to laugh because my, grandmother was a woman who grew up on a farm. She spent all of her life working with her hands. And when I went back a few years ago and I'm telling her, hey, grandma, I'm getting I got a master's in fashion design. She's like, what is that? So she never really understood what it is that I'm doing. But, she was the person who would support you no matter what. So she did say, oh, that's pretty. So I'll take that. So that's one story. A slightly different story is this scarf. It's called the ceiling. It's called Ceiling. Let me straighten it out a little bit. So the first scarf, the textile design is based on a painting and a drawing of mine. And this one is a photograph. So I kind of walk around the world and, try to capture interesting things. And this particular scarf is really important to me because 6 years ago, I started my company and a friend of mine invited me to the American Art Museum in Washington, D.C. Her mom's school had an event and she was like, come over. So I go, I have a great time, and I look up in the Kogod Auditorium and they have the wonderful ceiling there. It's a beautiful kind of open space. You can sit there and enjoy a good conversation and coffee with a friend. And I snapped a photo and I went back home and I'm like, I'm gonna play with all of this. So I created this scarf, and the scarf is important because when I first started my business, and I tell this to my students, when I first started my business, I told myself that I'm going to honor any idea I have, even if it's silly, even if it sounds ridiculous, no matter what, I'm just going to write it down. I'm going to pursue it. So I designed this scarf, and I'm sitting at home. I'm thinking, who would be interested in knowing about this? So I'm like, oh, well, the Smithsonian, because the ceiling is in the building. So I Googled, I don't know, contact the Smithsonian or something. And I'm laughing because it's the most, black hole type of an email, whatever. So I sent the design over, and this is maybe like a month into me starting the company. And I'm like literally laughing. And 3 weeks later, the buyer for the Smithsonian contacted me and bought a bunch of designs, including this one. So I have very fond memories of this design, which actually the experience itself, kind of the business experience, me getting to be in the gift shop, and I'm still at the gift shop at the Smithsonian with the scarf. The story behind the scarf, it's called The Ceiling, and it is about looking up. So it is always kind of, going through life with more of a view instead of just kind of having tunnel vision, which, I think that goes wonderfully with my experience with the design and hopefully the way I wish to live my life. So this is the second story. Again, if you have any questions, pipe in. Let me tell you another one. Okay, so this one is a new design from late 2021. And this is a painting based on a painting. Oh, I don't have that one, it's sold. But I have a painting. It's a really large piece, but I took photographs of sections of the painting. And this painting is called I Take My Walk. And the story behind this one is that I really enjoy the poetry of Mary Oliver. So I read her poems almost every day, and I take words out of her poems and they become titles for my artworks. So she, in a poem, has the words, I take my walk. And I love the words, and I'm thinking about them, and I have this kind of visual interpretation of what they look like as a color, what they look like as a shape. So I created this large piece, took a picture, and I turned it into a textile. And the story behind this is, definitely love of words and my admiration for Mary Oliver, and kind of the importance of us moving, kind of moving through spaces and getting out into nature, especially in this time when it's so hard to be together. I think it's really important to get outside and take a minute for yourself. So maybe let me tell you a story behind one more scarf so you kind of have a sense of how all of these come to be. So I have shown you one inspired by my grandmother's garden. We take a look at the ceiling, which is based on a photograph. And then this one is inspired by a poem. So I kind of, reach at a variety of life experience. I have a scarf inspired by my friend losing her job. And it turned out to be a really good experience for her. So it's kind of whatever happens that resonates with me, that I perceive as an opportunity to learn, I kind of take it. So this scarf is one more. Let me show you one more. This one is called Show Off Like a Peacock. And it's got these lovely blues and purples and lime green. And this scarf took shape while my mom was napping. I'm very, very kind of sharp memories of how every textile comes to be. We have in Prague, we have a garden where they have free roaming peacocks. And I like to go there when I visit the city. And my mom and I went, and there was a peacock kind of walking around. And then suddenly, it opened up its tail, and I just loved it. It's always impressive. It's wonderful. And the peacocks that have these tails are male. And I went home, my mom's like, I'm tired, I'm gonna go nap. So I go and I start painting peacocks in watercolors, just kind of very stylized, very, I would say abstracted, peacocks. I don't know that you can see it from here, but there's like a little head and body, and then the tail kind of opens up. So this scarf is called Show Off Like a Peacock. And it's about, kind of showing our true colors as women, especially really, when, kind of showing what's inside of you, not holding it back. So that's a little bit about the stories. I have kind of traditional education when it comes to the textile design, but I really like to think about these scarves as just reminders of good things. They have actual stories that have happened. I hope I am conveying these stories in bright colors and that there's always joy. And I hope that when my clients wear them, that it goes kind of beyond this, fashion accessory. I hope that when they reach out for the scarf, it is a reminder of a story. And it while it's based on my experiences, I do find people really connect with the stories. They read the stories, and there's something that they can connect themselves with, which really, I think, shows the importance of storytelling. We cannot really go through a day without having a story. We have stories about our lives. We have stories about the experiences. So I think any creative adventure is really an opportunity for connections with other people. And I have been very fortunate to have really great customers. So in December, a gentleman came over to the studio, which I'm sitting in. I'll show you a little later. He came over and said he wanted to shop for Christmas gifts. So I left the room, to kind of give him space and not bother him. And he spent good, I don't know, 20 minutes reading every story, literally walking to every design that you see here, turning the card. And then I came back and he had like a little pile of the scarves on the table. And I said, oh, wonderful, thank you. May I package them for you? And he had a particular person for every single design, which I thought was so thoughtful. He really, read the stories and really knew who is going to receive what. So I really appreciate kind of this, kind attention to the stories. So I think that's a little bit about the process. I will a little later turn on my iPad and I'll just kind of take you around the room so that you don't have to look at my face the whole time. So let's see. I think the second thing, sorry, are there any questions? If you have any questions, feel free to unmute or pop in the question to chat. I can see it now. I'm happy to answer any questions.
I have a question.
Mm-hmm.
What size are your scarves?
Let me show you so you can see it. It's a circle, so I do sew them.
Oh,
yeah, so they're infinities, and they are, regular size scarf, I guess. I mean, I have the measurements on the website, but you can wear them, just like this, kind of put it around your neck. Let me stand up a little bit so maybe you can see it. Perfect. So just like this, most of my customers will, twist it. So you have a little bit of a kind of double. Yeah. So the infinities are the most popular. I have them available kind of as an open rectangle as well. But it is a full infinity, and the seam is hidden, so it's fun and they drape really nicely.
thank you.
Of course, yeah, great, thank you. Good question. Yeah, I have a website with an online shop, so you're welcome to pop over there. And I have photographs of the scarves and all of the kind of the technical stuff like the material and the dimensions and care over there. And I also, I am very active on Instagram. So if you have any interest in stories, which is what I'm kind of trying to convey today, you're welcome to follow me on Instagram, and I share all of the stories of the scarves there in little videos, and it's a lot of fun to do that. So feel free to check in there. So I think that's a little bit about the scarves. I will say that they are in a bunch of local stores. So if you are interested in supporting local small businesses, please do so. It's very much appreciated, and you can find my work in a bunch of stores, which is always wonderful.
That's good. I remember you telling us about some of your scarves, which are images of musical or speech. Images of speech.
Yeah.
Do you have those handy? That was so interesting. I don't know how many different ones you have.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm turning my head to you because I'm looking at the display, making sure I have one.
That was so fun. I remember you telling us.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah. So actually, yeah, I have several. So I have I have talked about the importance of words. So I thank you for reminding me, Lisa. This is funny. It's like one of my favorites, and I forgot. So I am really interested in words and kind of the energy and how we talk to other people and how we talk to ourselves, kind of the self-talk, what's happening in the mind. And one of my most kind of popular and I think interesting designs is sound waves. So you're right, I do have designs that work with words. I have literally recorded words, and I'm taking the sound wave, the visual of the words, and I'm creating patterns out of it. So this one is called I Radiate Confidence. So it's literally the words, I radiate confidence, and they're going over and over and over around your neck. And I was, earlier mentioning how I really want for the designs to kind of go past a fashion accessory. So this is an example of where, you know, if a customer is reaching for this, I hope it's supporting her in her day. I will show you one more then. This one is sound waves. And again, I play with the design and, you know, the scale and what it looks like. This is a recording of the words, "Strength lives within me." So again, you know, something that really supports us during the day. And, you know, no one needs to know what you have around your neck. So it's kind of a little secret message to yourself. So perfect. Yeah, great. Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Great. So if there are, I see a question from Fran. Yeah, can you show some of your paintings? Yes, so I will kind of transition from the textiles to my paintings. Some of my paintings I turn into textiles, but not all of them. I do paint kind of at a much faster rate than I turn the paintings into the textiles. So what you see behind me is, you know, it's not always all of the work that I do. So let me tell you a little bit about the work I do. It's I focus on abstract art, and again, it ties back to my love of words. I have a very specific process that I follow with every single painting. It's the same every time, except it's not. And the process is that I read books, I read poems, and I write down words or kind of snippets of text out of these poems that move me somehow. And they can move me emotionally because I have had an experience in my life that I resonate with in those words, or they move me because they are visually exciting to me. Anything, you know, related to nature to me is really visually exciting. Speaking of the sky and rivers and meadows, I find that very just, I have a lot of kind of visual symbolism around that. So I have all of these words written down, long lists. And when I go sit down in my studio, I literally look at the list and I pick a title. And when I sit down, it's kind of a time of, you know, slowing down and really figuring out the energy of those words. So I do abstract art, and I teach it. So I like to talk about it in kind of this sense of colors and shapes and a sense of energy. So the paintings I'm going to show you are my subjective interpretation of each title. So I'll show you a bunch of larger pieces, and you can see some behind me. I'm pointing. But I do a lot of really small work. I really like 4x6. So let me bring it. I hope there's going to be a little glare, hopefully. So here's an example of my work. This one is called Intersections. So again, it's me reading the word, thinking about the energy of it. What is the color of it? How am I conveying what this word means to me? And I teach workshops where we paint words, and it's a lot of fun because sometimes I find that culturally we have all learned how we like the same word has the same energy and color, but sometimes there's really big differences between the students. So let me see. This one, put it in a way so it doesn't glare. This one is called Relaxing Along the Path. And again, these are words out of books. There are poems. I do not come up with the titles. I have the title and I aim to capture the energy of this. So, you know, I have kind of these beautiful golds and browns for maybe an actual path in a forest. I love dots. I find them really kind of symbolic of wholeness, but also complexity and cycles. I don't know, it's just a lot of imagery there for me. So this is my interpretation of relaxing along the path. And I work on a...
Do you say that, Martina, you say that you come up with the title first?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like the story it's like the story of the scarf happens before I have a design. So
Right.
for the paintings, I'm grabbing two more. So for the paintings, I have a title. It's words out of a book or something, and then I go and sit down and paint. Sorry, I have a light right above my desk, and it sometimes causes glare. So this one is called Recharge Your Energy, and these are smaller pieces. They are 4x6. I really enjoy kind of leaning into the work and pausing and paying attention to the detail. And again, it's my interpretation. What does it feel when we are recharging our energy? What does it look like? Where am I? So, you know, I often kind of take myself visually into forests. Often I'll use yellows and oranges for kind of the warmth of a sunshine. So, you know, I have a lot of kind of personal connections to the work. So I do a lot of small pieces and then larger ones. You did mention the medium that I work on, which is really cool. The paper you're looking at is actually plastic. It is called Yupo. It was designed in Japan for marketing purposes, I believe in 1980s or even earlier. So it is a Japanese company. And this paper is really interesting. You know, it's really hard to convey what it is over Zoom, but it is plastic. It's completely man-made. It does not have any trees in it, but it is recyclable. So it's a cool medium. It feels like a kitchen counter. It's completely smooth. It doesn't have any pores. So where I paint, I actually paint on a completely flat surface, because if I moved it around, it would just, the paint would run away. So it's a cool medium. The pigment, I work in watercolors and acrylics. The paints never go inside because the paper is just completely sealed. So it's a really cool medium. I always laugh because it's not a medium for people who don't know when to stop, because you can actually take it and you can wash it off with soap because it's plastic. So, you know, some people do not like working with it because you have to kind of have an internal clock and be like, I am done with this work. So that's about the medium. Let me show you a slightly larger piece. This one is called A Kind, oh, I want the glare here. This one is called A Kind Voice Within. And sometimes people ask me, oh, that's like you're by a fire in the forest. And I actually I painted this on a camping trip, and I did this after sitting by the fire in the evening, and I am indeed looking into the fire, and I am surrounded by trees. But I thought it was a very appropriate kind of color story for this title, A Kind Voice Within, where I feel like, you know, we often don't have a very positive self-talk. It's, you know, a lot of kind of, you could do better and all kinds of stuff. And I do find that fire is really interesting. There's this warmth to it. It brings light into the dark night. And I feel, you know, I really find being around camping or being outside and camping really relaxing. So it's a meaningful connection for me to capture the nature and tie it to kind of the inner life that we have. So I don't know, are there any questions about the paintings? It's okay if they're not. I can tell you more.
Any questions? Let's see.
That's okay.
So Yupo is plastic?
Yes, it's completely man-made. It's a plastic.
What is it?
It's some polypropyl, I don't know, something something made by humans that I cannot pronounce. It is spelled Y-U-P-O, and yeah, I just love it. I actually I used to work exclusively in watercolors on watercolor paper, And then I went and I took a painting class from my friend Alexandra Sherman. It was a 6-week course. And I left the class and I'm like, yep, UPO it is. So I have been, thank you, Fran, polypropylene. Yes, Fran is sharing with us what the medium there is. So thank you. Yeah, so that's what I work on. It's a really cool medium. I really enjoy it. I tend to work in the evenings because I find it kind of a great way to, slow down at the end of the day. And then I love, because the paintings are really wet, I use a lot of water, and the water doesn't have anywhere to go because the paper has no pores. You have to wait a long time for it to dry. So I let it dry overnight. And then it's so fun to wake up and to go down to my studio and see what happened, how it dried. It's definitely an interesting practice. I find it to be very meditative. I really love words. I love reading. So then thinking about words as a vehicle for inspiration for my work is very healing to me. I really appreciate kind of the practice of it. But it's also really fun to let the medium do what it needs to do. You have seen all kinds of the shapes. I mean, I'm really interested in kind of the interaction of like a really slim line and then really rugged edges, and then the precision of the dots that I put on. I just find it really interesting how I can play with shapes and tell, a great story of energy. But one of the things one has to be really kind of open about is partly the lack of control. I do often hear from my clients that the paintings do come across as you seem to have such control of the medium. And I do feel like technically I am pretty understanding of it. It's definitely a learning experience, but I'm pretty kind of, when I'm applying it, there's confidence to it. But then I do love that when I wake up and come downstairs in the morning, the colors have changed a little bit, or they kind of mixed in, and none of that was intentional. So I like the experience of my intention and then letting it go, and then waking up to something that I have created, but kind of didn't, if that makes sense. So that's a little bit about my artwork. I think Lisa was mentioning at the beginning about the places where I show. So I do try to participate in a lot of art shows. There are a lot of opportunities in the area. I am a board member of the Montgomery Art Association, which is a Kensington-based group, but we have members from Washington, D.C., Virginia, and Maryland, and that's a great group. So I'm right now in 3 different art shows through this group. And then coming up, I have a solo show, which I'm really excited about. And just trying to be really active in the community, meet as many artists, learn from them, and have a good time with showing my work. So that's a little bit, I think, about the artworks. And I guess the last part I can tell you about, I'll show you about my studio. It's going to be a little more interesting than just me talking about the work. I see Fran has a question. Where is my solo show? So the solo show is called Life's Beauty, and it will be my large pieces only, the biggest pieces that I create, at Chesapeake Framing, which is a company in actually like 5 minutes away from my house here in Kensington. And I just met with the owner today, and I have 2 really big walls to show off my work. So I'm quite excited, and it's going to be in March. So I'll be sure to put it in my newsletter and invite you all if you want to come see it. So the last area of what I really enjoy doing is art education, and I think it goes really well kind of with everything that I have done in my life so far. me working in clinical trials really gave me I think, hopefully, a really good insight into kind of, humans having bodies, because in clinical trials, I studied all kinds of diseases and worked on clinical trials for diabetes and cancer and childhood diseases. So I feel like I have been exposed to a lot of kind of what it is that the body can do for us and against us and for us and about us, and how do we deal with it. And I do bring that really into my art education, I think, pretty much nonstop. I work at a variety of retirement communities. So that's been an extremely rewarding experience, because I can tell you that I have about 100 grandmothers at any point in time. We meet regularly and create, and these are mostly women who have either been working in arts all of their lives or creating something, or I may have people who have never done anything. I have had students who are 96 years old and holding the brush for the first time. My oldest student is 104, which I think is really cool. She comes to class, in a wheelchair. She's unable to walk anymore, but she's always just beautifully put together. She always tells me she's going to the beauty parlor after, which I'm like, life goals. I do dress up just for her, so I look nice. And she sits down and she paints. And I think it's really wonderful for people to come together and create together and be quiet together and chat and share. I think it's really healing, and I think it's particularly important in communities, for instance, in the retirement communities, because it's a certain point in one's life, people want to be social, and the art class or art studio is really a wonderful place to just come together. Yesterday, I was teaching an art class it was abstract art inspired by music. And it was through the Smith Center for Healing and the Arts. And they provide services to a lot of individuals with cancer. And so I had this really, interesting group, very insightful women who have been through all kinds of experiences. And yesterday was so lovely. We were listening to a lot of music, songs, and we listened to a piece by Edith Piaf and the French singer. And I said, just close your eyes, sit there, see how it feels. And they all just closed their eyes, and then they painted and created these beautiful things. But the best part about it were every single one of them happened to be in Paris at some point in their life. And they all had these wonderful stories about cheese and baguettes, which, I think, like, if we can just go there, that's so wonderful. So the retirement communities are definitely, a place that I love to go. And it has, the experiences have changed my life and made me, really, hopefully a kinder and a more really compassionate person. I also teach for several nonprofits. They bring arts to all, a variety of communities. One of them took me to a local jail. So I did teach at a correctional institution in a women's unit. I am hoping, whenever COVID allows, when they reopen, I'm hoping to go back and create a series of workshops. Again, a very kind of insightful experience to work with people who are in an environment like that. It's really humbling and really interesting. And another field that I'm really interested in is, because I'm an immigrant, is working with teenagers who have recently immigrated. So I am working for a nonprofit that takes me to local middle schools and local high schools. And I spend afternoons with kids in kind of after-school programs. They are all non-English speakers. They are from all over the world, and it's just a really interesting experience to, work with young people who have often come to the United States not by choice. It's hard stories, and they are kind of put into this environment of an American high school, and there is a cultural barrier and there's a language barrier, and they're just so resilient and really into learning and doing things while also struggling. So it's really, I find it really rewarding to do art classes where hopefully I'm bringing projects where I kind of give them an idea, but they can bring their own kind of story and their heritage into it. So that's been really, really wonderful. So I see Lisa shared my website. Thank you so much. Great. So on the website, you can find my store, and I sell the scarves there and my artworks. And you can also sign up for art workshops. I will highlight that I am doing an in-person workshop on February 11th at a store called Locally Crafted. It is in Gaithersburg, Maryland. And we will be looking at, speaking of my grandmother and my love of flowers, at flowers. And we will make kind of these really cool 3-dimensional collages. So I'm just going to show you a few examples. So if you are up for it, we're going to be getting together and creating really fun kind of 3-dimensional explorations inspired by nature. So the information is on my website under the store. And yeah, I teach on Zoom. So, if you are not comfortable coming to an in-person art class, right now I have 4 or 5 Zoom classes scheduled. So you can just check in from your home. You don't have to go anywhere. I send out a newsletter once a month on the 1st of each month. So if you are up for it, you're welcome to sign up on my website. You can just submit your email, and you will only hear from me once a month. But the monthly update lists all of the art classes, and you can just click a button and you can get yourself a ticket, and you can work from home. The supplies are
asking, Martina, someone was asking in the chat to tell about your Zoom classes. What do you teach exactly on Zoom?
It's a variety. So I focus on watercolors. So if you have, even basic watercolor supplies at home, or, they're listed in the classes, you can join in again from your home. The classes are about 1.5 hours. They're in the evenings, and we connect over Zoom. And some of the topics are, for instance, the class I did yesterday, listening to music and creating abstract artworks inspired by music. I teach a class called Insightful Collage, which is about the power of words, but it's got a little twist, so I'm not going to tell you exactly what it is about. But and then a lot of people are interested in kind of a little more realistic type of work. So what I really enjoy doing is taking a look at a famous piece of art, for instance, a painting by Paul Cézanne, learning about the painting for a few minutes, and then we literally figure out how to use watercolors and kind of use his composition and use this idea for our own creation. Classes are never about copying the artwork. I kind of guide you through this really fun, process where you can look at somebody else's work, but be really encouraged to interpret it in your own way. And you do not need experience in any of my workshops. So even if you have painted a lot, join in. If you have never held a brush, feel free to join in. So I think that's everything about me. I feel like your ears might be ringing. I've been talking and talking and talking. But if we have a few minutes, Lisa, can I maybe share my iPad and see if I can show people?
Sure. Did you want to try to use the iPad too to walk around?
Yeah, I'll just use the audio from the computer and let me just see if it works, okay?
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, so I
Great.
thought, 1 second. All right, so let me see if I can turn, yeah, sorry, everyone, if you can just give me 1 minute. I want to make sure I turn my iPad and I will take you around my studio. I have 2 studios. One is the one I'm going to show you, and then I have a sewing room downstairs, which I don't know how to show you because I don't know how to have sound on my iPad. So Lisa and I brainstormed before coming here, but whatever, you'll see something. So let me see if I can. All right, so I'm going to start video on my iPad. If you can, Lisa, if you can approve it. Perfect. Okay, so there we go. Okay, hold on. I'm gonna see if I can.
Do you
figure it
need me to do something?
out. No, I think I'm good. Hold on.
Yeah, okay.
All right, so right now, I don't know if you can you pin or highlight the screen called Martina's iPad?
Yes, there you go.
Perfect. Okay, so I just want to make sure everyone is seeing it. I do apologize. This iPad is really old and really heavy. So if it's shaking, it's me. My arms getting all tired. So let me take you around my room. I'm actually gonna start with a little feature of artworks by someone else. I have a mini art collection by other people. So it's this like really cool nook in my studio. But this is gonna be a little dizzying, but let me go back to my door. And I'm gonna kind of show you what it is that I come to when I come from my bedroom. So this is my studio. I hope you can hear me. So this is what I come to. I have a little really cool long desk. There's my computer and my chair. And this is one wall. This is actually where you can see some of the really large pieces. So when I was talking earlier, I was showing you the 4x6s. So for instance, this piece is 24 by 36. So it's huge. So this is examples of some of my works. And this is one wall in my studio. And you have a lot of clients coming in. So the studio is both a workplace, but also a show place. I do want people to come in and just feel really comfortable, like, this is a wall in their house, and they can really kind of imagine what my artwork will look in their space. I have a little, of course, garden here, and these are all flowers given to me, or plants given to me by friends. And I frame all the time, and I participate in a lot of festivals and events. So I do a lot of packaging ahead of time, so you can see. Sorry, it's hard to hold, but you can see them kind of ready with all kinds of artworks ready to go. I play with all kinds of framing, and the clients can come in and take a look. So more display. And then I have a whole kind of a miniature store here with my scarves. You can see the 2 of them are missing. That's the ones I was telling you about. And if you visit, you get to come in and take a look and see all the different stories. And they're right here, so you can read the story and appreciate it if you wish so. And more displays. I have the whole room really set up as kind of a miniature art gallery. So all of the sizes that I do that people can purchase are available. And here's a big piece as well. And then I have a small workspace here. This is one of my favorite corners. I love all of the paints, and the mess on the workspace. This is some of the art supplies. My friend Fran is, I think, with us, and she and I always compare art supplies. It's always fun to learn from each other. So this is examples of the 4x6 work. And I will give you another view of the larger pieces. So this is one side. This is what I'm looking at when I'm sitting at my desk. And I do a lot of abstract art, but also these little heart paintings. So people enjoy taking, buying those as little gifts. So I'm trying to figure out how to hold the iPad and show you. But anyway, that's UFO as well. So everything you're seeing is on UFO. And then there's my computer. So you're seeing me looking at me. So that's it. A little view of the room as I can see it from my desk. And I would take you to my sewing studio, but I don't know how to do the sound, so I apologize about that. But I think this is giving you a good kind of idea of the space where I spend most of my day. So I think that's it. Perfect. All right.
Be back and have you show your sewing studio another time.
Yeah, perfect.
So, okay, now I'm going to bring you back on here.
Great. All right.
Let's see. So, any final questions for Martina? That was so great. I love going to all the artist studios.
Yeah.
And seeing all the colors and the supplies and getting a little insight into your secrets. I was wondering, you said you were talking about your grandma at the start. Can you hear me okay? Because my internet is a little unstable.
Yeah.
Did you have any art experience growing up, like in school in Prague, or did you have any exposure to hands-on arts growing up at all?
No, and I actually don't think I had a very good experience in elementary school. I remember getting a D or an F on every painting assignment. Plus, it was made even worse because I loved this boy in elementary school, and he was really good at art, and he always got an A, and I always got an F.
Oh gosh, you have to find him on social media and let him know you're an artist now.
Yeah, it's just so funny. I'm like, he'll never like me. I got a D again. So I don't know. I don't know that I had a good experience, with art per se. I did have a French teacher in high school who loved art, and I remember always talking to her, and she kind of encouraged me to go to the gallery. So I remember going to art galleries. One thing that I thought was interesting that I completely forgot about for literally 30 years was when I was 14 years old, I made a dress and I hand stitched it because we didn't have a sewing machine. So I came across this photo. Literally, I don't know what I am. I'm like 15 or something. I don't know. And I'm looking at the dress and I'm like, you made a dress. I completely forgot that I made a dress. And then I'm like, duh. And now you have a master's in fashion design. So I was like, something like happened and then I just forgot for 20 years and then it came back again. So, but yeah, no, I don't know, it was cooking and gardening and being outside. I mean, I think my family was and is creative, but it is kind of in this communal, let's bake a cake and let's eat together. Like there's creativity through food a lot, which is good.
You learned to sew from them rather than in school, or did you learn at school as well?
Well, so I did that dress many years ago, and I think my mom she knitted, and I remember she knitted all of my sweaters when I was little. And I thought it was the lamest thing because, I wanted to go to the Colors of Benetton and spend money and buy myself a new sweater. And there's my mom, walking over with like a sweater she knitted in her own time. I'm like, Mom, I don't want to wear that. And now I so wish, I would have everything that she created. But I did learn sewing in school.
Now we appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
You learned sewing in school.
Correct. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Is
Yeah.
it home ec class that they have?
Well,
I managed to avoid home ec.
Yeah, no, I don't remember. I think we mostly did cooking in like high school or something. But when I went to get my master's degree, we had a lot of sewing classes. So it was, sewing, it was fashion design in a sense. I have to be able to draw and paint a collection. But yeah, I can sew. So it's a great skill to have.
Right, it is. That's great. Well, this has been so great. Yeah, and I'm guessing maybe going back to your art classes where you didn't do so well, they were probably at that time, and given the climate of Czechoslovakia, the way the school systems were. I'm basing it on my experience having served in the Peace Corps in Estonia, that they maybe valued more precision and real life looking art rather than abstract.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Yeah, you're completely right. I remember one particular class where we had to, on the way to school, we were supposed to find a branch that had leaves and some kind of a bloom or something. And then we had to paint that. Whatever we brought, we painted it. And I ended up bringing this like really intricate branch from some shrub that had like so many little blooms, and I got an F because of course I never got it right. So hence I do abstract art.
Right, and that's so counter to what is taught in art education now.
Yeah.
You want to give the students encouragement, if they're at least trying, or everyone can paint precisely, and
absolutely. Yeah.
And there's we need our abstract artists as well, with
I agree.
activity incorporating the world as well. So, well, thank you so much, Martina. This has been really a fascinating chat with you, and we'll have to have you back some other time to talk more and to take us into your sewing room.
Yes, I wish. Sorry, I was totally thinking about it during the day, and then I'm like, I don't know how to do it. But thank you so much for having me. If I can make one more little highlight, I wanted to tell everyone about the wonderful earrings I'm wearing. I think my friend Ruth is actually here with us.
Yes.
And I just wanted to highlight the beautiful, beautiful jewelry she designs. And I am the proud owner of these beautifully architectural sculpted pieces. So yay, hi Ruth. So glad you could join.
Thank you. Thank you for the shout out. I really appreciate it.
Of course. Yeah.
Great presentation. It was wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Wonderful. So yeah, I just wanted to end on a note, supportive note for the art community. So thank you so much for having me. Really wonderful.
I have some of Ruth's. Thank you so much, Martina. This was fantastic.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
This video is available on SSTCI's Facebook page, our group page, Silver Spring Town Center, and it's also I tag you on your Facebook page so all your friends and fans can see, because I know you have a lot of fans with. So and I hope to see everyone back for more programs. And so thank you again to artist Martina Sestakova.
Thank you so much
Stay
for
warm,
having me.
everyone.
Yeah, take care. Thank you for joining today. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay.